How often do you read a newspaper, either online or in print?
Not really in print, unless my mom's like forcing an article on my face because she's like, oh, this is so good. Or online, it's less of like newspaper articles. It's more just like random articles that people like share on like social media sites that I'm like, oh, that's interesting, and I'll like click on it, and that's kind of like Twitter, honestly. Like I don't even need to read a newspaper. It's kind of there too.
Would you think it's kind of just like a long process of you just like actually reading the whole article, or is it more just like you take little snippets and you just read like certain things really quickly?
Probably selective reading. I'm at first, maybe like, yeah, to get the initial essence of the article, I'll like selectively read kind of the thing. But if it's like really well written and interesting, then I'm probably more willing to take the time to kind of read it. Wouldn't read it word for word to begin with, but just in more detail and in more like intensity, I guess. Yeah.
How do you access your newspaper, and like what newspaper do you think you'd read the most?
Probably Vancouver Sun, but that's just because my parents are subscribed to the Vancouver Sun, so we have a daily paper every day. And my dad reads it in the day, my mom reads it at night, and then anytime there's a good article while we're like, say, watching TV, my mom will be like, you have to read this, and like shove it in my face, and to make her happy, I'll read it. But it's a lot of times I'll also like watch the news too, so that's also like different ways of accessing it. Yeah.
So your family they do subscribe to the Vancouver Sun, but what categories in a newspaper do you most regularly read, or do you like reading? There's like the classifieds, arts and life, national news, stocks.
Okay, avoid stocks. And I mean, I kind like arts and life because I just find it like it's interesting. It's what interests me. So most likely that. Sometimes the comics, and then I'll also read like the news, like the what's kind of happening around the world. Just because I think it's important to get that perspective on what's happening around the world in order to, I don't know, you can't be completely blind to everything, because I think knowing things is key, and I guess newspaper is a great way for that to get out there, especially in print. I find it so much easier to read a newspaper than screen.
Describe your favorite article that you read in a newspaper.
Favorite, I think the only one that I can really like pinpoint, because I used it to base like a design project on, and it was about transit, and it was about how it was a column, so it wasn't anything like factual. It was more like opinions and like what, and I like those because I find them more interesting. Rather than just getting knowledge, you're also getting an opinion about something. And it was talking about how you go on the SkyTrain and no one looks at each other, and even though it's so crowded and you're surrounded by a ton of people, you feel so alone. And it was kind of commenting on how like Vancouver as a growing city is doing stuff like that. So I just thought it was like interesting because it's something that's definitely visible to me as a daily commuter, and it was nice the way he worded things. I forget his name, but he just worded everything really well and put something relatable into the news that I think a lot of other commuters could relate to, but we won't change anything after it, which is kind of sad.
Do you feel a difference between reading a news article in print and online?
Definitely. I mean, if I ever have to read anything online, I can't focus on it for longer than like maybe a paragraph or two. If it's like a long article, I'd much rather print it out and read it, or like have it already printed out. It's just easier on the eyes. And I think it's something about the paper that kind of makes it more, I don't know, accessible in that way. Because I do know that like iPads are a big thing right now. Like people read magazines and everything on an iPad, but I don't know, like that screen, like
it's like
it's not something that really appeals to me. So like I do like technology, but I'm old-fashioned in the sense where I prefer something like a book. Like I don't want to read a Kindle. I'd rather read a book, turn the pages.
In one word, how would you describe the overall accessing and reading of a print newspaper?
Tactile.
I like that one a lot.
Tactile.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
How often do you read a newspaper, either online or in print?
Maybe like once every 2 days, 3 days.
Yeah.
Not often.
That's pretty good
Yeah.
compared to most people.
Because like usually I get those like Metro newspapers that they
Yeah.
hand out on SkyTrains, and I'll just read them.
So would you say that you reading a newspaper is kind of just like a short activity that you do quickly, or do you actually take some time and go through the whole thing?
Oh, I just kind of skim through it, and if I like find something that I'm interested in, I'll read it.
Exactly. How do you access your newspaper? Do you do it through like an online website or in print? And like, what kind of newspaper do you usually like use?
I guess it's not really like a newspaper, but like like websites like CBC or like Global or something, because they have like articles.
Yeah. And then you also talked about the Metro and stuff. That's really good. Do you subscribe to any newspapers?
No.
No. Why not?
Well, I don't know. I don't know why. Well, because with the internet, there's really no need to subscribe to.
Yeah. And it's expensive.
Yeah, I'm not sure
But-
even how much it is.
I think it's like 100, or it's like $2 or $3 per paper or something. What category in newspapers do you most regularly or like reading? There's ones like the classifieds, arts and life, national news, stocks,
Entertainment.
entertainment. I like that.
I sound so like shallow.
No, it could be. Describe your favorite article that you read in a newspaper. If you
I can only remember one that's on top of my head. It's like the UBC sexual assaults article.
Oh. Why did you find it interesting?
Well, it's kind of like weird that it keeps happening, but like nobody's doing anything about it. And it just, or like someone, or I don't know, a group of people to just like assault like 6 females in like such a short period of time. It's kind of scary.
And that it's like also in our like age range.
Yeah.
So it's like
and
a little bit.
Probably some people haven't even like spoke up that they've been attacked.
Yeah.
So, who knows?
That's really interesting. Do you feel a difference between reading like a newspaper or a news article in print or online?
I think I find it easier to read it on print because there's like a physical copy that you can follow along with. But web, I don't know, it's just different.
Yeah.
Like in terms of like the
Tactile.
text,
Yeah. And then in one word, how would you describe the overall like thing of like accessing a newspaper and like reading it and just like holding it? Like what would be your word to describe it?
One word to describe it? It's more authentic.
Authentic?
Yeah.
I like that. Yay! Thank you so much, Jane.
No problem.
How often do you read a newspaper, either online or in print?
Every day or every other day.
And for how long do you think you would read a newspaper? Would it be something more like you skim it, or do you actually sit down and take some time and read it through?
No, I mainly skim it, but I will stop and read a full article if I find it interesting, but an average of 20 minutes per day, not the most.
How do you access your newspaper? Is it like an online website, or is it delivered to your door?
It's usually the paper, the hard copy of the newspaper,
And what newspaper would that be?
the Vancouver Sun.
Do you subscribe to a newspaper?
No,
Why?
because it's too expensive.
What categories in a newspaper do you most regularly read and like to read?
I like to read the international politics and mainly the international politics and if something regardless to my work, my field of work, I'll be really interested in reading it.
Describe your favorite article you read about in a newspaper.
One of my favorite articles I read in a newspaper was a couple of months ago about the 10 top things that makes you a Vancouverite. I found it really funny. I found it very straight to the point, and I could relate to it because I'm an immigrant, and I thought it was really interesting the way Vancouver see themselves.
Do you feel there is a difference between reading a news article online and in print?
Yes, there is a big difference.
Can you describe it?
I think when you're reading online, you're more exposed to advertisement, links. You get easily distracted because there is always a link, or to read more about this, click on here, or so you get very distracted. But when you're reading the paper, the hard copy of the newspaper, you're focused, you read the newspaper, and you have to actually turn the page. Online is, I just find you can get easily distracted.
In one word, how would you describe the overall accessing and reading of a newspaper?
I think reading the newspaper per se is a very nice experience. I love doing it if I have a chance, and if I by any chance take the bus or the sea bus, I think I look for the newspaper to read the newspaper when I have the chance. I think it's important.
So what is your one word that would describe it?
Reading the newspaper.
Reading in and accessing and the whole just idea of having this paper newspaper.
The word that we describe it for me will be becoming aware. It's important. And I think I like the experience. It's an enjoyable experience for me.